This week's episode was brought to you by Amy H., Dimmer Switch, Rose Marie, Richard Marks, Spider88, Brittany Booker, and Zulfikar Bilal. Thank you, Amy H., Dimmer Switch, Rosie Marie, Richard Marks, Spider88, Brittany Booker, and Zulfikar Bilal. It's with the continued support of listeners like yourself that keeps our band of bewitching barrel bunnies sneaking through the underdark of the collective unconscious and cataloging the litany of lethal, colorful, or otherwise anomalous life forms lurking there so we can source even fresher forms of thought for our cerebral sushi. If you'd like to help us torture metaphors even more expertly, or just hear the second half of this episode, that is before Jesus pulls you through the ceiling, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you unlimited access to our entire library of extended, uncensored, unhinged occult episodes that are designed to make your temporary stay in the Black Iron Prison a bit less unbearable. Oh no, not only that, but they'll be browsable from right within your Spotify app, after you log in, of course, which is absolutely the best way to browse our extended content. But that's not all. I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art at no additional cost to you. And if that were not enough, you'll even get the secret keys to our Discord server, which is full of the most powerful minds the 21st century has ever known, but they're too introverted to be mega rich or famous. So come hang out. In this week's episode, we raise our eyes to the heavens and prepare ourselves to be sucked straight into God's waiting room as we investigate the unlikely modern trend which sees people from all over the world selling their cars, rehoming their pets, and spending more time outdoors in preparation for the Rapture, an event where God's faithful ascended to heaven prior to the kickoff of Armageddon and the 7 years of Tribulations. You know, the time when Jesus eventually comes back to kick Satan in the teeth. On the free side of the show, we explore the modern trend as it explodes on TikTok before winding back the clock to see how the faithful and the church alike have long theorized about this particular event before wrapping up the entire thing and what it has to do with Aleister Crowley? More than you'd think, probably. Then, in the extended show, we take a look at the places where the Tribulations period has invaded popular culture before settling into a rather enlightening investigation into the Virgin Mary's assumption into heaven led by Hecka Astra, which then descends into Tim and Luke yelling at each other about Star Wars. Thank you, and enjoy the show. You know, I was going to make a joke about the rapture, but it just isn't happening.
I mean, I think it already happened today or yesterday.
And we're all still here, so what does that say about us?
Well,
Actually, I got raptured and they sent me back.
I'm wallowing in my sin still, but I didn't see anybody floating up to Jesus today.
You know, the rapture's going to suck anyway, because let's be honest, no matter what happens, people are going to be standing around complaining that the book was better. You know what? Armageddon tired of these rapture jokes.
I like that.
It's the best joke I've ever told. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you the world is going to end with some vague, half-baked theories we heard a week ago, and we're parroting them awkwardly from behind a thinly veiled mask of false concern and duper's delight. Nay, we explore the issues of being sucked into heaven from both a biblical and occult perspective, checking in on our buddies who quit their jobs over it, and listing some of the exciting things we have to look forward to during the end times. Because this week, we're discussing the Rapture, being assumed into heaven, and what to expect if you miss the airplane. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as the Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by the dog-headed saint of barbecue, Marisama.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
The lady of the heavenly dinosaur, Hecka Astra.
Hello. I'm still here. Is that a Velociraptor joke?
Oh,
Nice.
It is now. And the riddler of the royal rebus, Tim, Hacker.
what's a rebus?
It's a puzzle.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like a cryptic, written, pictographic puzzle, I believe. Tim is also the creator of the Cryptic Chronicles podcast, who tried to warn you that the rapture was coming, but you didn't listen. And now you're stuck here with us. And Tim, too, apparently, because Tim was a naughty, naughty boy. And Jesus did not come for him today.
One of us.
Abaddon said that I couldn't go.
Because apparently the pets are not invited? Okay.
No.
So in case you were not in the know, as we weren't, I guess today we missed the rapture.
The rapture missed us.
Well, I'm still here, and Hide's still here, and Luke is still here.
I was gonna say if pets don't go, it makes sense why I'm not up there.
I'm a bit offended because, it makes me feel like I'm not good enough.
You just weren't chosen.
Well, you have to be fully up to date on all your boosters for the Rapture.
No.
But ye are not so chosen.
I'm a little sad because originally we thought it was going to be next week.
Yeah, sorry about that. When I brought it up to everyone as a show idea, I would kept saying the 28th, and I'm not sure why. I think that might have been an older prediction from like a few years ago, but aside from that, no, every video I was seeing was like September 23rd, September 23rd.
Maybe you just intuitively know that it is on the 28th, and maybe we are just in time with this episode.
They do this every few years. When one of these comes around, the guy's like, I was just off by a week. So it's actually next week. You should send more money now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the fact that I was wrong just proves it's real.
Maybe it's when the perihelion is for Comet Atlas.
Duh.
Yeah, it's interesting that's coming around this time as well, which I think is part of the reason people got hyped. But yeah, apparently the rapture was supposed to happen on the 23rd and 24th, which is today, the day of recording. I first noticed this phenomenon like from a high frequency of rapture prophecy videos on my YouTube feed. And this was like a couple of weeks ago, like I said. So I started noticing there were a bunch of these and like more than normal. And it had this specific date. So I was like, hey, we should do a show on this. And honestly, seeing like prophecies and stuff like this is not really uncommon on my feed because it's with theology, eschatology, divination and stuff like that. But I noticed that these videos were like far more numerous than usual. And then I realized there was a current viral hysteria around the supposedly valid doomsday date.
4chan will occasionally stoke up a big fuss about a specific date. I've seen similar things on Twitter and Facebook. This one seemed to spill into the public consciousness right as the date was arriving.
Maybe it's supposed to be on December 19th. That's when the comet passes closest to Earth.
And it's not the first time we've probably lived through numerous ones. I mean, if you're years old, you've probably lived through like at least 5 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was a really big one in like 2012, and apparently there was one similar to this in like 2017. But we're going to focus on this one. I was just surprised to see, like Luke said, usually it's like stuff spilling out of 4chan and it's like a stupid joke meme. It's not also uncommon for stuff like this to be around the specific date because, as you guys know, Rosh Hashanah started on the 23rd and lasts through the 24th, essentially the Jewish New Year. It's also known as the Feast of Trumpets. So that's been used to justify other predictions in the past. And then the visitation, like Hecka said, of a comet is also likened to these doomsday theories. And we have Atlas floating around out there. And now apparently there's a bunch of other comets, coming with it. Woo! And then people are using like astrological signs in the sky. Like we just had that blood moon recently that people are like freaking out about that. And then like in 2017, when this happened, Jupiter was aligned with some other planet and it was like the birth of Christ, but in the solar system or something. People were analyzing it. So, but the full spread of this one in particular was so far reaching and it actually escaped the evangelical Christian echo chamber that usually contains this kind of stuff from reaching the mainstream. So I had to go check it out and see where the heck this was actually coming from. So while I was perusing these videos to try to get to the bottom of it, people were making lots of content like trying to prove the prediction must be true because my 5-year-old daughter told me Jesus was coming and she didn't hear anybody talk about it. They and their friends and family were having visions and prophetic dreams that they wanted to talk about, or they were praying to God about the prophecy and receiving signs, like basically synchronicities relating to 923. This one girl had the Jewish gematria number revealed that it equals Feast of Trumpets, so on and so forth. Another guy basically was thinking about it and then looked thick and saw a license plate that had 923 on it. He took that as proof. Another woman finished praying to God, asking if this was true, and then she opened her eyes and looked at the clock and it said 923. Confirmed.
I do this all the time, but if you obey Greek wisdom, if you try and wriggle out of a fate you want to escape, you just end up hastening it. So you should just like pucker your butt and get ready. Maybe
some of these people were excited about it and they just wanted confirmation that they're going to see their Lord Jesus Christ.
Look, we've all been there, For some people, it's Klaxor from Zaxxon 9 to take us back to the Galactic Fed, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, but this was getting really crazy too, because it was just like thousands and thousands of videos, mostly from TikTok, documenting how they were preparing themselves for the rapture by boarding and rehoming their pets, selling all their worldly possessions like their cars and their houses, quitting their jobs. Some didn't go into work that day, I know. And yes, really, creating household checklists, snack baskets, and scripture recommendation lists for those that would be left behind, and eventually squat in the raptured believers' empty houses.
I left you some Bible verses and some cashews.
Be sure to water the plants.
You don't want to have dead lilies during the tribulation period. Oh, by the way, did I mention I left you some cashews?
Wow, the things I've seen. Many people also plan to be outside that day because apparently roofs would hinder one's ascension into heaven. Go figure.
Some god.
I know, you can't even remove the roof. You can do that in The Sims. Why not in real life? Yeah, the fervor was so intense on TikTok, which is where a lot of these videos were from. The hashtag Rapture Talk began to spread to other social media platforms like X and Reddit.
What? Serious question. Do people really think they're better than their pets? Do people really think that dogs don't go to heaven?
All dogs go to heaven.
That's true.
Dogs are legit angels.
Aw, sweetie.
They're one of the choirs of angels.
Woof, 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 woof. But if they're Japanese, they go when.
Sometimes they go, "Bataga."
Good taste, Luke. Good taste.
Ba, badaka, ba.
One.
Nobody knows what that is. The dog of wisdom, you guys.
I remember that.
So yeah, after seeing so many of those types of videos, I'm like, okay, well, where is the actual source of this? And I saw a lot of the, like, other people giving analysis, like other rabbis and theologists kind of pitch in on this idea, but there was no real source until I searched a little bit deeper and found some articles and stuff pointing to this guy, Joshua Malakila, Manamana.
Do 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 do.
Malakala.
Do 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 do.
So this guy is a South African pastor, and I say that with quotes because he's doesn't currently have a congregation. He was like an assistant pastor like 10 years ago or something and then quit. I don't know. I was listening to some of his backstory, but he doesn't have a church or a congregation or anything. He's just some guy that used to be a pastor.
No, he used
So
to be an
he's-
assistant pastor. Then he brought the pretzels.
He might have had his own congregation at some point, but he doesn't right now is the point. And this guy, this just one guy is the source of this entire fervor and through his one prediction that he had in like a vision. So on June 17th of this year, a South African Christian podcast duo hosted Joshua on their YouTube channel, Sent Twins TV, to speak about his prophetic vision in person. At the time of this recording that we're doing here now on the show, the original interview has over 600,000 views, and the twin sister hosts would go on to have him on a few more times leading up to the prediction dates. I think he's been on there like 4 times now. And then as I was watching this video, I went down to the comment section and perused, and it's filled with people discussing the event, posting their own visions and dreams that they claim to confirm the prediction.
To be fair, there's a lot of people right now that, quote, feel like something is coming.
Right. And then one comment I found, perchance, pointed me to an even earlier appearance of Pastor Joshua, where he called into a Christian talk show podcast on YouTube called God's Voice Daily. And he used only his first name to tell his testimony about his vision and all that led up to it. The earlier video I found was from June 2nd. So from there, he must have reached numerous other influencers and creators in the following weeks, which ultimately landed him on that in-person interview that actually went viral. So the in-person interview is what went viral, but I found like evidence of him claiming this beforehand as well.
So he's like calling around and being like, I've seen the future.
Yeah, pretty much. He seemed like really, I mean, I think he really believed it, but like he was very urgent about spreading the news, basically.
See, if I tried to make an end of the world prediction go viral, exactly 2 people would like it. Heck, we have proof the world's gonna end, and we have a hard enough time getting people to listen to that one. You know, if you want to, you should check out our End of the World Part 2 episode. You'll never sleep again.
I'm one of the 2 people that likes his post.
Aw.
People don't know what they're missing out.
So yeah, in his testimonies, Joshua recounts what he saw and urges people to prepare themselves for rapture, encouraging the audience to spread this message as urgently as possible, seeming himself completely convinced that he heard God speak to him. He claims in his vision he saw Jesus seated on a throne in heaven, and for those wondering, yes, it was white Jesus. and he spoke, quote, very loud and clear, saying, quote, on the 23rd and 24th of September, I will come to take my church, unquote, as in whisk all his believers away into heaven. Joshua remembers Jesus using the word exodus while describing what would happen, hearkening to the Old Testament story of Moses and the exodus of the Jews out of Egypt, and implying and reinforcing that Jesus would come to lead God's people off earth into the promised land of heaven.
I just have to point out that doesn't actually say what year.
I took that quote from like an article about it, but he was pretty adamant that it was this year, just saying.
He can always claim to have made an error later.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, you got to be like, oh, I got the date a little wrong. It's still going to happen.
No, it's definitely on the 23rd and 24th of September, but he didn't tell me what year, and I just assumed it was going to be this year. I really thought it was going to be this year.
Well, I mean, this next thing that Jesus drops a bomb on will kind of clear that up for you, actually.
Okay, what was it?
So, one particularly insightful point Jesus stressed to Joshua in the vision was that, quote, the World Cup of 2026 will not happen. Life will not be as it once was, unquote. Confirmation that soccer is God's chosen sport. And obviously next year, if that won't happen next year, then, you know, it's to assumed that it's this year.
I thought the water polo was God's chosen sport.
When is the World Cup of 2026? That's early next year?
I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we're Americans. We don't know.
I just love how he uses that in his like as if everyone is supposed to know what that is. Like it's a universal thing. I know it is in Europe and stuff, but I'm just like, do what now, Jesus?
They ran back and forth. Oh, they ran back and forth again, kicking the ball. It's like NASCAR.
That's like the Alabama-Auburn game will not happen next year.
Oh, no.
You and your Alabama.
I'm just saying that's like the only rivalry like the Patriots and the Saints. I don't know what the you guys do up north. Or
you know,
there.
there's more to the world than just Alabama, right?
What do you guys have, like the surfer dudes in Hawaii over there?
I was going to say.
Oh my God, you can't see that?
You can cut it out. I'm sorry.
Just bleep it because it's kind of funny.
Tim's pushing my buttons and it's making me crazy.
Surfer competition.
The Freaknik of 2026 will not happen.
Yeah, there you go. So moving on, Joshua also highlighted that the vision came with the booming sound of trumpets in his ear, as if it foreshadowed the 7 trumpets cited in the book of Revelations, the first 6 bringing disasters or judgments, and the last trumpet announcing the founding of God's kingdom on earth. In addition, Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, aka the Jewish New Year, was set on the days in this prediction, continuing the motif of trumpets. An air of urgency surrounds Joshua in his vision, and he very earnestly urges the audience to warn others of Jesus' impending arrival. Later, he describes another vision he had afterwards, where angels came to him and confirmed the validity. So it's checked, it's totally true. The angel said so.
It reminds me of like those silly Christian stickers or pictures that you can put up in your home that's like, hurry, Jesus is coming. Or it's like, put that away, Jesus is coming. Or like, I saw that.
Jesus is watching, like those TikToks where it shows somebody looking at like a really messed up video and it has like a digitized Jesus behind him, just like looking at him super serious.
Jesus is watching you.
Yeah, Jesus is watching you.
So like the one thing defending you from burning and choking and crying and screaming in hellfire for all eternity is just an advanced stage of FOMO.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you are there in the tribulations, like scorpions are eating your testicles or whatever, and you're like, damn it, I should have just listened to Greg. He told me the rapture was coming. All I had to do was pray. Here I am getting my nuts eaten by scorpions wearing crowns and horses' hooves and shit. That's it. Now they're in heaven, eating grapes, watching strippers or whatever they do.
Dude, I was raised in the church, non-denominational, and then like later Baptist. I didn't come across any rapture stuff until I was like a teenager. Like all throughout every sermon I ever went through all my life, I never once heard of this rapture stuff, ever. It was just like, you know what? When Revelations happens, don't take the mark of the beast. Shit is gonna suck. Die with honor or with righteousness and faith.
Well,
that was like how I was taught in church. There was no rapture, get out of jail free card.
there are certain sects of Christianity that focus heavily on this kind of stuff, like the Seventh-day Adventists, I believe. They focus heavily on Revelations.
Yeah, a lot of them do. And it's kind of a toss-up because I found this other term that Luke and I will discuss later. It's basically where the actual term rapture comes from and where it's like how Tim, you've never heard of it described this way. This is a new thing. It kind of happened in like the 1800s. And then there's also evangelical Christians. Like, I don't know whether Joshua is lying for attention or not, but the way that he speaks about it just seems that he truly, truly believed that the end of the world was going to happen yesterday or today. And his urgency about this message caught like wildfire on the internet. While listening to a little bit of his backstory, I did hear him say that he is born again. So that tells me he is an evangelical.
He's got the new lore,
Which is a trans-denominational Protestant movement that focuses on certain beliefs and practices, including emphasis on accepting Christ as a personal Lord and Savior, belief in the Bible, like the scriptures themselves, focus on evangelism, which is spreading the Christian message, hope and anticipation of the second coming of Christ. So people are joyously awaiting this event. And this is trans-denominational, meaning it's not by denomination of church. Like if you're a Baptist, you could be the type of Baptist that doesn't have these beliefs, but there are Baptists that do believe this. So evangelicalism can appear in any Christian sect, but not all Protestants are evangelicals.
So isn't that also a little bit like Jehovah's Witnesses?
Exactly. That would be qualify as an evangelical sect, but some people classify them as a cult and not really a Christian thing.
But that's why they call themselves.
Yeah, they're cult. Which ones are the ones that make you like break up with your whole family when you join them and like all your friends?
Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, those ones are the cult.
That's
There you go.
That's the restoration of the church through Joseph Smith, right?
No, that's Mormons.
That's
it's
Mormon.
Mormons. Okay,
They're
pardon
different.
me.
Yeah.
So
They're both
but
pretty culty. Mormons are really good cooking though.
Oh, that's right. Seventh-day Adventists are Mormons. That's correct.
Pardon my confusion, but I think it's both Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons do have this kind of focus on like the end times and the amount of people who can go to heaven and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Totally.
Yep.
My whole family became Mormon, so watch what you say.
Dude, I've
Not
never
all,
met a
not all,
Mormon
not
that I
all.
didn't like, to be honest.
I mean, they're really nice. Like same with
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witness are really nice, but it's still kind of culty.
my question was kind of in reference to like would these sects qualify as evangelical?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, those specifically, yes, because they have very specific beliefs. But like, if you're talking about like a Methodist, there are so many different Methodist churches that you can't just say they're all evangelical because they're not. Same with Baptists, like the older Protestant sects. These newer ones are like very segmented. So it really just depends on the specific church.
And it was like, I remember being told like Christians were just going to have to go out and like live in the wilderness when the beast came, like the Antichrist came, when apocalypse came. There was no, oh, we're just going to beam me up, Scotty, and get you all out of that. No.
Well, that would be like the tribulation part, which we'll talk about how that's different later in the episode. Because there's this other term that of people that believe that rapture comes in steps and parts.
Okay.
So it just gets real complicated. Anyway, I learned a whole lot this week. In addition to all that, when I was trying to figure out the source of where this prediction came from, I was learning a lot about the Feast of Trumpets and Rosh Hashanah, like I was talking about earlier. And it's frequently cited when it comes to Christian eschatology and apocalypse predictions. The reason is the motif of trumpets, and this prediction, even ones before it, specifically the one that I mentioned that happened in 2017, seem to highlight this holiday as the beginning of the end times. For them, it's the new year, but like for us, it starts in the fall. So it starts in the later half of our sun-based calendar. So I found out why after Rabbi Influencer discussed the parallels between Jewish feasts and the symbolism in the crucifixion and the foretold second coming. And I'm going to briefly go over those before we move on to the next topic. But if anybody's really interested in learning the festivals and what they mean and symbolism behind them, I left a detailed outline at the bottom of the notes. But yeah, the first coming is represented by the spring feasts in the Jewish calendar, which the first one is Passover, which represents the crucifixion. And then there's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which represents the burial of Christ. Then a day after that, there's First Fruits, which is kind of like you eat the first fruits after like in spring and summer as they grow. And this represents the resurrection. And it's actually kind of around like April in May. And then you have Pentecost, which is like 40 days after that. And it represents the Spirit given as the church age begins. Like it represents the ascension, basically. All of those things have already happened, but the second coming is represented in the fall feast. And the first one is the Feast of Trumpets, or Rosh Hashanah, which represents the rapture or gathering of God's people. And the second one after that would be the Feast of Atonement, which represents the second coming and judgment and Israel's national repentance. So the fulfillment of the covenant of Israel. And the Tabernacles feast is when the kingdom of God is officially on earth.
Whoa. So for anyone who's like, whoa, that came at me kind of quick, this is really fascinating. You're saying that Christian cosmology can be thought to be reflected in the Jewish major holidays.
Yeah, the feasts specifically. They have like a cycle of feasts. And the idea is that the entire life, crucifixion, resurrection, and the second coming of Jesus, like the entire arc of the prophecy and the fulfillment of the prophecy of Jesus, can be overlaid on top of the feast holidays symbolically. That's why the Feast of Trumpets often comes up when people are making rapture predictions.
This makes a lot of sense because, of course, the first Christians were Jews, and they probably needed new ways to conceptualize of the holidays they already had. But then Christianity had to go and do this with every other religion as well, where they had to kind of adopt things and incorporate them into the religion. So this is fascinating. And you mentioned the trumpet, so we'll talk about its symbolism in the tarot later, but I was looking up images of Rosh Hashanah, and this is when they blow the ram's horns.
Yeah.
Which we see in the tarot represented in the Aries card, which is the occult new year, right? Like if you're doing the zodiacal new year, that happens when the sun moves into Aries. And that's why the ram is also associated with Aries, because it's hearkening to this old Jewish meme, basically, that the blowing of the ram's horn indicates the new year.
And this is often, this trumpet blowing is also kind of a ritual reenactment of, I believe it's a story about like when Moses in the Exodus, after all that happens and they finally find the promised land, it's like in some of that Moses story, angels appear and give him like 2 silver horns or trumpets to blow. I'm really not sure on that because I down that avenue very much, but it's like it has something to do with the story of Moses and like angels bringing trumpets to him and sing something. A lot of trumpets going on, guys.
Yeka was pointing out to me off microphone because the horns are like the top of the head. It's the head of the year.
Yeah. And it is an annunciation of sorts, like to usher in or to announce the beginning of something new or something coming in.
So I caught some of the drama that you're talking about, Maury. I saw posts where they were like, my therapist of 10 years just closed up his doors, said that the rapture was coming, and he like sold his car, and now he's not my therapist anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like this possessed the imaginations of quote unquote normal people. Like this guy was into Buddhism, right? He was not a super evangelical. And this got me thinking, because even as society continues to move closer and closer into the guts of secularism, there's this curious trend on the rise. According to a new study by Barna,
66% of all U.S. adults say they have made a personal commitment to Jesus that is still important in their life today. That marks a 12 percentage point increase since 2021, when commitment levels reached their lowest in more than 3 decades.
But this surprising trend is not just among adults. When we factor in kids, we find the following.
Among U.S. Gen Z men born 1997 to 2012, personal commitment to Jesus rose 15 percentage points between 2019 and 2025, while millennial men born 1981 through 1996 saw a 19-point increase over the same period. Overall, U.S. adult commitment climbed from 54% in 2021 to 66% in 2025, with younger cohorts driving the growth. The youth are based. No, I'm just saying, like I was kind of saying, I guess this might have been the pre-show, but the turning of people towards a more spiritual life, I view as a net positive. Like, I don't care what God you're worshiping, but as long as it's like not fucking Satan, I'm good.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
What's wrong with Satan?
I'm just saying, like, the bad one that tells you to kill animals and babies.
Theistic Satanism is cringe as I agree.
I know. I don't mean it literally. I'm just saying, like, as long as you're doing good and, like, I feel like being spiritual is a good thing. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like there's too many atheists floating around, guys.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Atheism is like for the dum-dums.
Having a spiritual nature to life adds something to it that is lacking in atheism.
And hey, you don't have to be Christian, guys, but, like, some people got to start somewhere. So, you know, throw them
You
a
have
bone.
to have such a delusional arrogance to be atheistic.
Atheism is a totally valid form of spirituality.
spirituality.
It kind of is religious. Let's
you
be
can,
real.
I mean, they don't like to hear that.
It does require
personally,
faith.
and I like to pick on them because they don't like to hear that. But it is a valid form of spirituality, at least in my eyes. And it can be argued. Things like, Stoicism, not to jump in your oatmeal, but also Buddhism can sometimes be considered
Stoicism
atheistic.
has a lot to do with Christianity.
Well, they go really well together, like peanut butter and jelly.
Well, the lack of spirituality implies the existence of it somewhere.
All hermetic of you.
I think these statistics are fascinating that you brought up, though, Mari.
Atheists do have morals, but they derive them through logic. So, like, logical altruism is actually a thing.
Yes.
Like, being altruistic and friendly to your neighbor and helping other people other than yourself actually is a good play. It actually gains more for you in the
But is
in
it
the long
logical
run.
to be atheistic?
Their core tenet is logic.
Because it seems like illogical to me.
We can end up in a full-on debate, but I think everything functions better when it's harmonious, so including atheism.
Yeah, it has its place.
Okay, I gotta play devil's advocate here. The atheist, it's similar to what Mari was saying, they naturally embody the magic axiom, which is to treat spiritual matters as if they are material, and material matters as if they are spiritual. And because an atheist is often offended by the irrationality and stupidity of religion, it's because they inherently, whether they think it this way or not, are taking an inherently spiritual perspective towards physical reality, their limited lifespan, the suffering of others, etc. And so that's, in its most basic form, atheism that's a totally valid form of spirituality. And I think if you have a spiritual mindset, that's really what matters. That's whether they believe in it or not, or know it or not. That's just my opinion.
It's a good opinion. They're like inverted.
And we do need to talk about this because this unprecedented movement towards religion is being called the quiet revival. So this is something that is happening.
Like, I never expected it to be possible, but yeah, statistically, there's like a massive revival in Christianity, which is really intriguing to me, especially
Almost
based on
like-
how much like people have been brainwashed into scientism over the past few decades.
It's almost like the evangelical rise, the Great Awakening back in the 17 and 1800s in
Yeah.
America.
As far as researchers can tell, this rapid migration towards traditional forms of religion can only be explained by, to speak plainly, how crummy everything has been lately. After all, part of religion's long-term seduction of the masses involves pointing out in proper prophetic fashion all the bad stuff that will happen if not enough people are on board, reaching a critical mass right before the end times. This is outlined most explicitly in the second book of Timothy 3:1-5, which reads,
This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So, what'll that make you? Good?
do you guys know what incontinent means?
Yeah, you poop and pee yourself.
It means it's gonna be poo-poo in the streets.
I mean, it can mean urine as well, but if it's involuntary, then I think they don't mean to be sullying the streets, apparently. I
Not
kinda
the
want-
pee-pee poo-poo.
I kind of want to extend the benefit of the doubt to them that,
Doesn't it mean that, like,
that it's a medical condition.
No!
doesn't it mean that they're just like spewing garbage
No.
all the time? Like,
It's a medical condition called they don't care, and so they poop in the streets. Or they're so poor that they have nowhere else to poop except the streets.
What if it is, meant to be not literal? Like they're involuntarily having verbal diarrhea.
I mean, if we're gonna get all occulty about it, that's universally true. So it's verbal diarrhea, it's real diarrhea, it's pee-pee. It could be fapping away in the streets, which we also see. Same dude
So it could
usually,
be
if
like-
you think about it.
like degenerately vile, like to cause disgust, basically, just because.
Luke just made the masturbate hand sign at me.
She asked me what I meant. She asked me what
yeah,
I meant by
felt that
fapping.
from over here.
You
I
know,
felt it.
Diogenes? Like that.
Hell yeah. If I could not be Alexander, I would be Diogenes.
All right, so with all the poop in the streets comes false messiahs,
Dominion.
threats of war, and any number of worldly problems.
From Matthew 24, verses 5 through 8, it says, And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled. All these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows.
And this is just the beginning?
Well, I know Vancouver in BC, in Canada, and San Francisco have the poop on the streets part down already.
Oh yeah, they're pros. But like, think about how just far gone and careless and like just shameless do you have to be to just take a dump in the street and not give a f who sees.
Those left behind by the rapture gotta deal with the rise of the Antichrist, a charismatic world leader who brings peace and stability, but then after an attempted assassination attempt in which he's wounded, turns tyrant and then crazy, beginning a new religion around him.
Or her, you sexist.
Oh yeah, or her. We are equal opportunity Antichrist here at the Whole Rabbit.
Yeah.
Did you guys, speaking of, did you guys hear that there's like an adaptation of Harry Potter where they're going to turn Voldemort into a woman and everyone's mad?
Cringe.
I don't like Harry Potter, so I did not hear that.
Well, Voldemort's the Antichrist in that book.
That's the bad guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what? House Slytherin is the best, so everybody else is jealous and lame. They could just
That's
deal
true.
with it.
Yes, I am a member.
Another thing that has to be done is the rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, which later becomes the site of Antichrist's desecration of the Abrahamic religions.
Oh, that's an important point. Like, that has to happen inside the Third Temple.
Mhm.
Yeah, keep that in the back of your mind. I have that later in the notes. Before we get to that, I didn't want to get away from the Antichrist totally, because he also exists in Islam, and I was running short on time. I got the following information from Grok, based on my masterful prompts, of course. But in Islam, the Antichrist is called Al-Masih ad-Dajjal, which means the deceitful Messiah, and he's pivotal to eschatology in Islamic tradition. Basically the same guy as the Christian Antichrist. He represents the ultimate deception and trial before the Day of Judgment, so still in the same part of the timeline we're looking at. Now, this guy is supposed to emerge from the East, and although he's not mentioned in the Quran by name, he's mentioned extensively in the Hadith literature, which is like the fan fiction that's bona fide, like, canon. It's like, this is also the real thing. Now, physically, he's depicted as a one-eyed man. He's supposed to be blind in the right eye with a bulging green-tinted left eye. He's possessed of curly hair, a ruddy complexion, and the word kafir, meaning unbeliever, is inscribed on his forehead, visible only to true believers. So those are the people with the they live glasses.
Great.
Now, this is similar to the Christian Antichrist, where he's endowed with supernatural abilities. He's supposed to mimic prophecy. He's able to heal the sick, able to resurrect the dead. Of course, this is with demonic assistance. He can control the weather. He can make vegetables spring up out of the ground. And he manifests any number of illusory paradises and hells that invert this reality. His paradise leading to damnation, and his hell leading to salvation. Now, according to the Hadiths, he's out to lead the vulnerable groups that don't lead the Quran, basically. And so you could imagine the first group on the list are the Jews. They believe that he's going to be the leader of the Jewish people. I think it goes without saying there is some tension between Islam and Judaism in various parts of the world, and this is one point of contention. But this Dajjal is also supposed to lead the Bedouins. So I would imagine this is people that still subscribe to the old magical traditions, or just old traditions in general. Weavers, magicians, illegitimate children.
Bastards.
And he'll be able to, like, do the Santa Claus thing and traverse the whole earth rapidly, with the exception of Mecca and Medina, which is protected by angels. Now, his reign of terror is going to last 40 days, but the first day is like a year. And get this, it culminates in his defeat by Isa, who is basically Jesus. And then he is either slain with a sword at the gate of Lud, or it's just like a divine gaze, so like lasers from his eyes. It dissolves the Dajjal's body into salt water.
So Jesus has like the power of a Gorgon, like Medusa?
Yes, and it turns the Dajjal into semen. I'm going to guess that's what that really means. And like, this has been taught since the medieval times, apparently, but in the Hadiths, not like in the Quran. So just to be clear.
Now to get back to the objective correct version.
Oh my God, Tim.
Now the fun stuff starts. 7 years of bad stuff. Plagues and supernatural horrors. War, famine, pestilence. The angel guarding the abyss ceases in his duty. And his name is Abaddon, by the way. The same name as one of my pet dogs.
Woo!
And then locust-like creatures, insect-like in appearance, rise from the abyss to assault humanity, as mentioned in Revelation 9. These are basically the insectoids from Starseed lore. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power.
And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man.
So it's like burning.
Yeah, or stinging them over and over. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. Aliens.
That's f***ed up.
EDF.
Shoot the bugs.
Oh, yeah.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Yo, check out the notes. I use Google's Nano Banana, the most sophisticated AI, to take this description from the Bible and make what it's describing, and it's stupid. Very stupid. You should see it. It's in the notes.
I mean, this is, I don't know, it's great character design for a baddie in like a video game.
This
Looks
is
like a D&D monster.
They're just describing big beetles, right? They're not like this is just how the poetry back then. It's too literal. It's just big beetles they're talking about, aren't they?
Well, they're Pegasus lion beetles.
Oh my goodness. So beetles. They're just beetles. They're big beetles.
But they're like,
Help, I need somebody.
but they're still furries because they have the face of man.
Also, the mark of the beast goes down, in which if you don't take the mark, then you f***ed. Like seriously f***ed. You can't buy food, own property, post on social media, so say bye-bye to your TikTok. And basically, it's all but a death sentence in one way or another.
I think Trudeau tried this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I decided a long time ago that if it came down to that, I would be a prole. I don't even care. I would live outside the f***ing metropolis and eat garbage with the possums.
If one takes the mark, then they are damned. If they don't, then life sucks. But at least you're not going to be dragged to hell as like a guarantee whenever you die, you know? Then comes Armageddon, the final battle between darkness and light, in which it's basically the most epic battle in history, with supernatural entities fighting and everything.
Can't you like narrow this down to like a real place, Megiddo?
Yes, it is a real place.
I just imagine like all these people posting TikToks of them being like, I got the mark.
What up, fam? Look behind me. We got some Armageddon going down in the background. Try not to get stung by the beetle alien things, demons raised by Abaddon. Make sure you like and subscribe.
Okay, so my Satanist friend I bring up sometimes, this is correct, that different religions like to mess with the other religion's eschatology because they know that politics is ultimately driven by eschatology. And so he thought that whoever designed, what are they called? The barcodes, UPC codes?
Yeah.
What are they called? Okay, this is legit. They literally have 666 on most of them. They use the number 6 to demarcate the beginning, middle, and end of the barcode. So like, since we've had barcodes on everything, you've been justified to say, oh, that's the mark of the beast. You can't buy or sell without it. And my Satanist friend is like, it's probably because whoever designed it was like profoundly a believer in this stuff and did that, like to reflect his own religious belief. That's what he thought. And I think it's very interesting. Go look at a QR code.
Well, back to the apocalypse. Then, when shit is darkest as it can possibly get, Jesus returns with an army of angels and saints to defeat the evil and all of the bad guys on earth.
He came up from hell and begat a son of mortal woman.
Hail Satan!
Woo!
Stuff is going to suck if you took the mark of the beast, but stuff is going to be like sucking less for those who didn't, with stuff increasingly getting better for the faithful until stuff is good again. Then the 1,000-year reign of peace on earth occurs, a golden age, a utopia. Everything is awesome because Satan and all the dark entities are locked away from basically interacting with the physical world whatsoever in any way, fashion, or form for 1,000 years. However, Satan is eventually released by Abaddon, and boom, the final judgment. All the people who have ever died, ever, are resurrected. They are all then judged one by one final time. If their soul is heavier than a feather, they're fucked. Oh wait, that's the wrong one.
Now you're being an occultist, you damn witch.
I make oopsies every once in a while. But the outcome of that judgment ends in eternal destinies assigned. So it's basically just like Mach.
I mean, as if Judeo-Christian religion doesn't borrow more than a little bit. I mean, the Greeks did too. It's tradition.
True.
Matthew 24, 15 through 19, then speaks of something called the abomination of desolation, which is a fancy phrase for a vision of total uninhabitable destruction of the Holy Land, which could be interpreted, as some argue, as the current state of Palestine. Not to get super political on the show, but that's just what some people have said. Now, as Matthew said earlier, these things, according to believers, must necessarily come to pass. And this is why I keep bringing up the stuff that Professor Zhang, the dude we brought up in the last episode, keeps saying, which is that eschatology is the engine of geopolitics. So whether you believe in God or not, there's really no way of getting out of it. And long story short, if you can't find any rational reasons for the way things are, you should look to eschatology, because you're probably going to find answers there. So to wrap things up about this first part of the tribulations, the rapture.
Origin of the rapture in popular culture.
The concept itself of the rapture was first successfully popularized by the prolific British evangelist John Nelson Darby from the early 19th century, who taught that God's elect would be removed from the earth prior to the 7 years tribulation period. And frankly, the idea has only continued to grow. This concept, broadly speaking, is known as dispensationalism, which alludes to the idea that God has certain periods of time which he dispenses where specific things will happen.
In each dispensation, God gives people a specific set of responsibilities, tests their faithfulness, and then judges or blesses them based on their response.
You solved the box. We came. Now you must come with us. Taste our pleasures.
Although these eras differ, the overall story consistently points back to God's plan of salvation through Jesus Christ. Of course it does. Think of it like a timeline. All events that matter on the timeline, which change things or are significant, are dispensations. Some examples are, in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were tested with the command, do not eat the forbidden fruit.
I will eat my neighbors.
After the fall, humans were tested with their conscience. Later, God gave Israel the law of Moses as their guide. Today, we live in the church age, where salvation is by faith in Christ, apart from the law. In the future, dispensationalists believe God will deal with Israel again during the end times, tribulation, millennium, etc.
Right. And when you said salvation is by faith in Christ apart from the law, that's law as in capital, as in the old law, the law of the Old Testament law. It's a separate age. There's a separate covenant and a separate prophecy. Yeah, this is all the hardest things to understand that I found in my research. Dispensationalists believe Christ's church of believers will be taken into heaven first, and what's called, I've heard people call it a secret rapture or something. And so they will leave first, as the prophecy of Christ will have then been fulfilled. And then at that point, apparently God will unpause his Jewish game and resume fulfilling their prophecy, 7-year tribulation. So Christianity was like a temporary strata save before he went back to the original game timeline. That's like the best way I could come to understand what this idea is. This belief is actually a Protestant idea, and it's especially popular with evangelicists, like we talked about earlier. But not every Protestant sect believes this. Like, Tim, you were raised a Baptist, but this is not most Baptists believe in the rapture, but whatever
Incorrect.
church.
I was raised non-denominational and then later Baptist when we moved from where our old church was. But
Right,
most of it was non-denominational. But yeah.
But that specific Baptist church could have been somewhat non-denominational, because Baptists are kind of
Yeah, they were.
They're very loosely organized, but the most organized sect definitely believe in rapture. Another sect that does is the Pentecostals. A lot of those are also some of the hard ass Pentecostals are like the snake charming people that we talked about in previous episodes. And then it's also very common in evangelistic non-denominational churches. So it's not all non-denominational, but if they're very evangelistic, then they're going to probably believe in the rapture. And so those who don't believe that there are separate dispensations for Christ's church versus Israel, and that the rapture will happen all at once for everyone or everyone else. So all Orthodox sects like Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, Anglican, and most Protestants like Lutherans, Presbyterians, Methodists, Episcopalians, even Church of Christ, which surprised me, Christianity, and Quakers and Mennonites are some that actually don't believe that there is a secret rapture that happens before where all believers go into the sky with God. They believe that it all happens at once after the tribulation period, so that we're like tied in with the prophecies of Israel are part of the Christian doctrine.
Yeah, I grew up with the scary stories that you had to just be faithful to Jesus even if like the entire society turns against you and you have to go live in the fucking woods, which is terrifying as a kid. Like that scared the shit out of me, but at the same time I'm extremely thankful for getting the shit scared out of me and traumatized in that way because it taught me to not trust establishments like inherently.
I remember the Bible club, which met in the science room, which is the room I like to hang out in before school started, you know what I mean? But like after school, it was the Bible club. So I caught wind of the stuff they would talk about, and they all believed there was no way to predict when the rapture would happen, if anything like that happened. And it was probably going to be that everyone was stuck on Earth, and they like the pagans were like pull off your toes and like pull out your eyeballs and make you like renounce Christ, but you had to like never renounce Christ. You had to just like grin and bear it. That's what they taught.
Take it.
I mean, doesn't it specify in Revelations that no man shall know the exact day?
Yeah, that was one of the arguments that I heard quoted the most. Is it's like, I think it's a passage in Matthew, but it's like, no one will know the day or the hour. And then it'll come like a thief in the night. Like no one will be expecting it when it comes. So you can't just sit there on your eschatology calculator and map it out like God's day is 1,000 years and this is blah, blah, blah. Apparently that's against scripture. Okay. And then there was another argument that like not even Jesus knew when he was going to come back. Like only God knows that. So if Jesus doesn't know, then how is Jesus telling you this in a vision? Just saying, man.
I agree. That's how I was taught when I was growing up.
So it's Matthew 24:36, where Jesus says, "But concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone."
Not even Metatron.
My goodness.
And Metatron knows everything.
So if John Nelson Darby, this guy who made the idea of the rapture so popular, sounds familiar along with his followers, the Plymouth Brethren, it's because that is the denomination that the famous occultist Aleister Crowley was raised within, and this strongly influenced his own religion of Thelema, which holds to similar ideas of dispensationalism. We talk about this nearly endlessly on this show. For those who subscribe to Crowley's ideas, it is amusing to consider that the rapture, as a Christian phenomenon, is rooted firmly as a feature of the Aeon of Horus. This idea works surprisingly well if we explore it just a little bit. Now, Horus is a god of the sky, which is fitting because the core idea of the rapture itself is being, quote, caught up with Christ, as it is described at the conclusion of the first book of Thessalonians 4, the place in the Bible where the rapture is thought, to the chagrin of many Bible experts, have its scriptural origins.
For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words.
This means, according to Thessalonians anyway, the rapture will immediately be preceded by the dead who were saved in Christ rising from the grave, an image classically depicted on the judgment card of the tarot. We'll go into more depth on this later. And while the dead rising from the grave on the day of judgment is a fairly old motif, modern theologians consider the rapture wishful thinking, a cherry-picked edition of selective literalism lacking in traditional patristic support. But it is interesting to think from a Thelemic or Aeonic perspective to note the basic qualities of both parties in Thessalonians. Hear me out. This is kind of an abstract idea. I'm saying that from Crowley's perspective, you could argue both the old Aeon and the new Aeon are described here to Thessalonians. So in the old Aeon of Osiris, which we may relate to Christ, there in Thessalonians we see what would be considered the old Aeonic formula of initiation, asceticism and sacrifice. People have to die and then be reborn in Christ. Meanwhile, the new Aeon sees its initiates meet God by rising into the sky while still living. This is an apt metaphor for the magical arts, specifically astral projection or even successful invocation.
Or ascension of the spirit, which is usually appears as a material, thing.
Or
Of the
Good point.
material body ascending.
Or knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel.
Yeah, basically.
Ooh.
So if you were really Phalamic, you could argue that even there in the Bible, it's hinting that in the old formula, you had to die to meet Christ, but in the new formula, you'll be caught up into the air while still living. And that's like the new way to do it. And so you don't get a free ticket from the tribulations. You just need to learn how to meditate. Wah, wah.
Yep,
And get
sounds
caught up
about
into
right.
the air, like not literally floating into the air, but that's also evocative of rising in spirit, mastering your spirit such that you can ascend.
Gnosticism.
So good.
But if you'd like to hear the rest of this episode where we talk about what happens during the rest of the tribulations, its influence on popular culture, how it appears in the New Age, and last but definitely not least, all about the Assumption of Mary, a somewhat heterodox story, if you will,
Don't assume me.
then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you this extended show, you'll get every single one of our extended shows from our library. That's like 6 years or more of bingeable
It's like a
content.
bajillion.
I'll send you a 5x5 high quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art, which is extra waterproof and will probably survive the end times. You'll also get the secret keys to our Discord server where you can hang out and talk to us about all the signs you see in heaven, because I still want a UFO video from our listeners. I'm still looking for one. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew pew.
Pew pew.